What's good? What's good? It's your boy Mr. Does It All. I'm just sitting here getting ready to go to bed and doing what I do most nights, sit here and contemplate, think about things, talk to myself. I do that when I wake up too, for the most part. Get up and have a little conversation to myself. But anyway, I was just sitting here thinking, man, I just got a question. And this question is basically got something in my eye. Do you think today's times are like back in the day? Now I am 35. Um, so I grew up in the 90s. I guess I would be considered an 80s baby because I was born in 89. But uh, most would probably consider me a 90s baby because that's the era I grew up in. But anyway, my question is this: like I said, do you think that our times are similar to these times that we're living in today? Me and my brother was having a conversation one day. This is nothing against him. Quite sure some people may see it his way, some people may see it my way. But it was just, something I was thinking about. Now when we was having this conversation, I was referring to the holidays. Now, at this point in my life, I don't celebrate holidays. None of them. Birthdays, Christmases, uh, Easter, Halloween. Never really celebrated Halloween, but you know, the holidays. And it's because I feel like they are paganistic, made up ritualistic holidays that have, you know, ulterior motives. And there's plenty of stories about what Christmas really is, and there's plenty of stories about what Easter really was, and I won't get into all of that because I wouldn't be able to uh, really, you know, do it justice with the information that I've come across over the years, as far as what the original, holiday or celebration, ritual, whatever, meant or was supposed to be. But like I said, we was having a conversation about Christmas in particular, and I was saying like, no man, like I said, I don't celebrate the holidays anymore. But I was saying, no man, it's just not the same. Uh, back when we was young, it was a simpler time, and the essence was there, the love was there, the excitement was there, the appreciation was there. And like I said, this could be applied to all uh, holidays, and I'll get into that in a second. But just referring to Christmas at this very moment, just think about when we was growing up. There was, like I said, what I mean by it's a simpler time is just think about the things that we wanted. Little girls wanted Barbie dolls and stuff, and boys wanted bikes and little pop guns, and some boys wanted action figures, stuff like that. The toys were a lot simpler. Whatever, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Rumble Robot, whatever they was called. Um, the toys were simpler. We wanted simpler things. The uh, even when it came down to the game systems, you had uh Sega Genesis. I wasn't out when I mean, I'm probably sure I was growing up at the time, but by the time I started wanting to play game systems, the Atari was, an older game at that point. But what I could, as far as back as I can remember, is the Super Nintendo. You had the Sega Genesis. Um, them the only two that I can really remember. I think PlayStation might have been out at that time. I'm not sure, but I know eventually you got stuff like Sega Dreamcast and the PlayStation One, and then you eventually start getting the GameCubes and the Xboxes and the PlayStation Twos. But even then, like I said, it was a simpler time. 64 Nintendo 64. The, um, we wanted stuff, little scooters and stuff to go outside and play with, and bicycles and skateboards, and yeah, that's what we wanted. And then just the Christmas spirit was just much more. It was a lot, different. As far as one of the main things that I was using as a comparison is like, look at all the sitcoms and stuff that we used to watch. All those sitcoms had Christmas specials, but the majority of those sitcoms, and I'm gonna get into these in a minute when I hit another part of this conversation. The majority of these sitcoms had their own little Christmas specials as well, and the sitcoms of today are nothing like the ones we had back then. When you went to the malls, when you went to the Walmarts and the Kmarts and little stores like that, it was packed full of happy children running around, um, sitting on Santa's lap. You know what I mean? Lined up to see Santa, and like I said, they were more appreciative. They were more respectful. They were more, um, you see more family oriented. You see more families in there shopping. You know what I mean? Getting Christmas lights and ornaments and picking out presents, and like I said, the movies and TV shows played a big role in it as well. Remember that movie, A Christmas Movie? Remember the Home Alones and other movies like that? And it was just a different time, man. It was for sure. And he was basically saying that it's the same, except that I'm older and I don't really see Christmas as I used to see it before. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Well, yeah, this may be true. I am older, and and I definitely see things differently, but I'm not naive to the fact of what others may feel, because I once felt it myself. But just having eyes and common sense, would you could see that it's not the same. You know what I mean? These kids aren't running around with you in the stores like that. Kids aren't running around outside playing like they were. It ain't no whole bunch of basketball goals and basketballs being bought. Bicycles, and you trying to get your bicycle before Christmas, but on Christmas, if you get it, you out there on your bike, or you out there on your four wheeler, or you out there on your kick scooter, or your gas, or your electric scooter, or whatever. You out there outside having fun and enjoying yourself. You out there on the trampoline. So yeah, like I said, it's not the same. You don't see that same energy nowadays. These kids are inside. They want Xbox 360s. I mean, they want Xbox Ones and PS5s. They want iPhone 14s, whatever it is. I don't know. They want the Galaxy S22 Ultras, and they want stuff like that. They want, these kids want brand new cars. They want scat packs and all of this different nonsense. And when I was young, you was happy to get any car. Now, I'm quite sure there was some people back then who was some brats, you know what I mean? But for the most part, you didn't care if you got you a little piece of car. You know what I'm saying? Something that you had to work on as a youngster. You was just happy to get that. You know what I mean? My first car was a old Cadillac. I don't even know what year it was. I think it was 70 or 80s. Big Cadillac DeVille, two door. It was a big old car, boy. But I was whipping that big sap sucker. Man, look, it was so big that when I like if I was turning on a side street, a regular side street, I had to wait till the other person pulled out because it was so big. Um, and then after that, I had a Ford Explorer. It was a 90 something, I think. But like and then after that, I started buying my own vehicles. But and even some most of the first ones that I bought was some putt-putts, but I put tender love and care in them, and the rest is history. But the kids don't want these same things that we had growing up. So, and I'm gonna get back to some of them. I'm gonna get back to some stuff that's gonna kind of clarify this too. But then moving on to Easter and those Easter Sundays where you folks families would come and you would have big Easter Sunday dinners or barbecues, and maybe they still do that to some extent, but back then there was a lot more structure. There was a lot more respect, honor, and love. Big Mama sitting at the table, Grandpa sitting at the table. You know what I mean, and cooked this big lavish meal, and people showed respect. They came on time. You know what I mean. It was dressed nice, and they had respect for one another, even if they didn't like one another. They didn't want to disrespect the elders. They wasn't doing a whole bunch of cussing and stuff like that. Carrying on. It was a different time. Halloween was different. Nowadays you have to be extremely careful. Um, I guess Halloween was always you had to be careful, but it just seemed like nowadays it's just so like here in our hometown. I mean, for the most part, I see them all do Halloween, do trick or treat, all in the same little neighborhood. So when you go, it's just this one little neighborhood that you see that all the kids be walking around. They don't. I don't even think I've seen nobody come over to our neighborhood or our streets. Back then people were everywhere knocking on doors, getting candy. But now it just seems like every year they stick to that one area. All the kids do it at in the daylight with their parents and all of it. It's just don't seem the same. Um, but yeah, let's see. I don't know what other one it is. Is it Valentine's Day? There was more love and sexiness and uh charisma and what's the word I'm looking for? It was more mature. Like nowadays, it's just so commercialized. All these holidays are commercialized. They're in capitalization is at an all time high, man. Like they make so much money off of this stuff. They make millions of dollars just off Christmas lights alone. So just think about bowls and wrapping paper and all the presents and stuff that you've gotten them in the game systems and the games and the tennis shoes, these expensive tennis shoes and then and then Easter eggs and Easter grass and baskets and uh um, clothes, outfits, Easter outfits, uh Halloween costumes and candy, you know what I mean? Like uh Valentine's Day, same thing. Roses and chocolate and balloons for all these holidays. They capitalize on holidays so much, they make so much money that they got whole stores, and one of which I know of is Party City. I think that's what it's called. But they got a whole store dedicated to nothing but parties. And they stay busy because when I DoorDash, I have to go in there often, and every time I go in, there's a lot of people in there, and they are, they shopping and they. So think about birthdays. Multiple people have birthdays every day. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably one of their biggest selling points is their little birthday packages and stuff like that. So, but I just think it was a lot different. Like Back then, I know when I was growing up, we had birthday parties. We do it right there in the backyard. All your friends from the neighborhood come. You know, you got some birthday cake, some hot dogs, a hamburger, some chips. You know what I mean? The parents could send their children over there and feel just fine. You know what I mean? I don't see too much of that going on nowadays. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but you know, like I said, those backyard barbecues was just great. So like I said, maybe you think it is the same. I just don't. I don't. I think it's a lot different. Just people in general are a lot different. They're a lot more detached. That's really what I'm saying. The world is more detached back then because it's so much pulling us apart. You know, being that we have this social media, we're in this social media era, and it's a bittersweet thing because on one hand you're able to talk about these things that the mainstream media don't talk about, all these deaths by the hands of corrupt individuals, whether they're cops, angry store owners, and angry people, making false claims. Oh, they hit me, or they did this, or they did that. So, and it's being brought to the forefront, and that's one thing that's pulling us apart. This political thing is dividing us more and more. The bigotry and the racism has always been a thing, but now that social media has taken it and ran with it, so many platforms out there talking about this that I done got to the point where a lot of times I'll just skip over a lot of the stories that come out because it's just so many of them. Every time you turn around, it's this white cop did this, or this white uh uh store owner said this, and or this white boy killed this kid, and it's just like, you know what, they gonna get away with it one way or another. They gonna get a light sentence or they gonna get away with it. So what's the point of even watching it? And it comes to you so fast and so often. To a lot of the times they'll come to you with the story, but there's no closure to it. They're just getting the story. So there's a lot to be desired as to what's gonna happen. So it's a lot of stuff that's distracting us nowadays that just wasn't there back then. I grew up in the era of the IBM computers and the big bubble back TVs. Color TVs was just coming out around that time, and the TVs were getting smaller and smaller out around that time, and you had the rotary telephone. I mean, well, that was a whole thing, right? That was a whole vibe right there before the cell phones start coming out. Um, Messing with the dial up on the computer, and you got to share with whoever on the computer while you trying to be on the phone. Okay, you get 5 minutes, you get an hour of this, and you get an hour, blah blah blah. It was just a different time. You had to be connected. You know what I mean? Now with the cell phones, it could be anywhere and everywhere and get a phone call. But back then, you was trying to be around the house to get that phone call from that job or that relative or that girl or boy that you like. You know what I mean? Um, you set up a hot date for a woman, and you trying to get back to the house, so you be around that cell phone. Even though they had cell phones back then, but they weren't as as plentiful as they are now. It was just a different time and a different era. You know what I mean? People had more swag, more finesse, more couth about themselves. They had a little bit more knowledge. We're just getting dumber and dumber as a people. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, a good thing and a bad thing. Because on one hand, it's like uh, the dumbness that a lot of them have are was causing the rebellion against what the machine is doing. You know what I mean? Like I said, jobs right now are plentiful in the area. You can go a lot of different places in this town and get a job. As to where when I was growing up, fat chance of you getting a job. You go to somewhere, you can walk there, you can ride a bike there, you can take a train there, whatever. And you know, it don't matter. You know, they're gonna tell you, well, we're not hiring right now, or they might tell you we're accepting applications, or they might tell you we're not even accepting applications. You know what I mean? Um, it was hard to get a job back then, but now every time I go into a different store, different restaurant, they need help badly. So these young, it's just not the same. So what do you think about it? Uh, like I said, I don't celebrate holidays, but I still can see what's going on with the whole ordeal. Now, another thing that I said I was going to get back to was those TV shows. Think about, and just in general, just getting off of holidays in general. Back then was a lot. That nostalgia was a lot better to me. I've already given you a lot of it points as to why, the love, the honor and respect and the your word is bond and the attachment that people had to one another. They had to be a lot closer to one another, because it wasn't so many distractions. You know what I mean? Which is one of the biggest things. Now that we're so distracted and detached and pulled away, it's easy to, you know, you, back then you had conversations with your folks. That was the entertainment. You sit around the dinner table. What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? You know what I mean? You had these conversations, but nowadays everything is text and instant message and all of this, and people are detached from one another. You can't even go to a pretty girl nowadays. Like, yeah, how you doing? Excuse me, ma'am, how you doing? My name is such and such. You be considered, I guess depending. It's not a common thing. Let me put it that way. Unless you got some player, you know what I'm saying. Most of the time, it's the players that 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 got that gift of gab like that. They could just go up to that random woman and holler at her, and it's on some, yo, what's up, shorty? How you doing? You know what I'm saying? You look pretty good. You feel me? Like, you trying to see what's up. What you doing later? You feel me? Like, what's happening? And the girls go for it, but let a man come to, how you doing? My name is such and such. Oh yeah, Samantha. Okay, cool, cool. So and then start asking questions. I guess, I don't know. What do you do for a living? You new to this area? I don't think I've seen you around here before. Stuff like that. It's just not so common anymore. But back then, you had hey, let's see who can get the most numbers. You know, um, but yeah, man, one of the biggest talking points that I like to use is those TV shows. You feel me? They were great. So think about. I'm gonna name some of them that I could think of. I'm gonna name a lot of them. Living Single, Living Color. It's a Different World, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Mama's House, Full House, um, Different Strokes. Uh, I can't remember the name of that show with Tootie on it. I think her name was Tootie, but I think they was like in some dorm. I never really watched it, but there was a group of girls, and I think her name is Renee something, but she played in it. Golden Girls, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. It's another show that I used to watch. I want to say I think it's called Parenthood. You got um, I just had something in my mind, but it skipped me. So, Malcolm and Eddie. You got the Cosby Show. You got you know, you got Lizzie McGuire and Boy Meets World and the D.L. Hughley Show and even some of the cartoons are a lot better. You know what I mean? The Ren and Stimpy and Pinky and the Brain. You can even go to the Courage and the Cowardly Dogs, the Kids Next Door. Um, You can even go back to the westerns. Even those, a lot of those westerns and those older black and white movies, those was great as well. You know what I mean? But just think about a lot of these TV shows that I've named that had context, they had structure, they had family and friend values, they had real life situations that occurred and that they worked through, and they had to sit down and have conversations with the other characters or the other people to, come to a resolution. Or can't forget about Martin, um, the Jeffersons, Good Times. Um, it's just so many of them. You know what I mean? What's that other one? I can't think of it. Sanford and Son. That was not the one I was talking about, but that's another one, Sanford and Son. But I'm thinking about I can't think of the name of it for whatever reason. But it got Raj in it, Raj and Rerun, and I forgot the other guy name. Hey man, I forgot his name, but you know who I'm talking about. I got D from the Wayne Brothers, which is another one of the Wayne's brothers. And then so many movies. It's just I can't even think of all the movies. Oh my gosh! But those movies was just a lot better. 90s movies are a lot better. They had a good middle, beginning, and end. It was like in the mid 2000s that they start going downhill. Um, well, I said mid 2000s. I'd say about 2005, 10 maybe. The movies start, dwindling. They started losing steam. But like I said, I mentioned Home Alone, and like I said, there's just too many to even think of. But all that stuff back then had a lot. That's nostalgia, man. That was part of our childhood. Getting those VHSs and popping them in on a weekend with the family and enjoying each other's company, getting some popcorn and going to the movie theaters, and just it was a great time to be alive, and there was a lot more love and honesty in the air. Now, granted, there was still a lot of subliminal messaging and things of that nature going on in those movies. Um, Little stereotypes and bits of racism, but it wasn't like it is today. I don't know what they play today. I couldn't even tell you. I don't even watch TV. I don't watch. I don't got cable. I watch YouTube mainly and some of these streaming sites. To watch a movie from time to time. But for the most part, I don't know what new sitcoms they have playing. I know it got to the point where I just remember Tim the Tool Man Taylor. Um, I don't know if I said the Steve Harvey show, but that was the Bernie Mac show. Moesha. A thin line between love and hate. Like those movies and TV shows are great, man. I just took a little walk down memory lane. Forgive me. But yeah, name some stuff like that now that can hold a candle to that stuff back then, and see why now it's such an agenda being pushed. You got all this homosexuality every movie and TV show you see. You got all this feminism stuff. Women are top tier and strong and independent, and they running shit. All the dudes, or most of the dudes, especially that's fathers, weaklings. They coming second to their wives. They're not running their family. Now you and your wife, I believe, are supposed to be a partnership, but you are the lead. If you can understand that, you know what I mean. It's just like if you're a detective. I've been on the job for, let's say, 40 years, and you've been on the job for 20, you're gonna look at me as the OG, and you, even though we partners, you're gonna follow my lead. Same thing when it comes to the marriage. It's like 9 times out of 10, the thing. Most men think logically. Most females, most women think emotionally. And when it comes to life and dealing with it, you need the balance of both. But the thing is, when you're thinking logically, that can have you can think emotionally. You know what I mean? And I'll give you an example. Uh, you see your son come in and he's crying. He's upset. Now you, as the father, may say, I got to get to the bottom of why he's upset and see if I can't help him with it. But initially, I need to approach him with a soft touch. See what I'm saying? I need to approach him with a soft touch. Ease my way into it. Don't just go in there barking like what you ain't doing, crying. You know what I'm saying? Real men don't cry. You crazy because you got to be way around it. You got to figure out why he's crying. What's wrong, son? You all right? It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Let him cry it out if that's what he want to do. Once he get himself together, you talk to him. So now that you got yourself together, go ahead and let me know what's going on. You know what I mean? But that, as that woman, she might approach it emotionally. Oh my God, why are you crying? What's going on? Who did? What do you not? She ready to go scorch earth. Now, like I said, in this scenario, the man approached it in a logical way and understood that he needed to begin with a loving and kind approach, i.e., being emotional or an emotional touch. Even if you're not being emotional, that emotional touch is there. As opposed to that woman, she just coming out the gate emotional, upset with you. So, will you tell me which option is better? Now they both could work, but which option is better for this young man or even this young lady? To have somebody come to them and say, it's okay, it's all right, let it out, come on, it's all right. And then once they get it out, now you start getting to the bottom of this. Now you start listening, you start trying to help with the situation. This child is going to be, it's going to help that child more, in my opinion. But that's just to say that the man leads, even if you know what I mean. But anyway, in these movies nowadays, like I said, they show a lot of these men to be so weak and just fragile. I've even seen a couple of movies and TV shows where they'll switch the roles, where the woman is being all sexually heavy with the sexuality, and the guy's all emotional about, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man, it's not manly, bro. It's not manly. Get up. Stop groveling. Stop groveling. You're making us look bad. But anyway, that's my little take on that. Do you think that back in the day is the same as today? If I missed something, I'll make a part 2, but it is kind of late, and I'm ready to lay it down. So I'm out.